Have you ever been judged so harshly that it changed everything you believed about fairness? What I'm about to tell you happened to me just 3 months ago, and it's a story that will make you question everything you think you know about assumptions. By the end of this video, you'll understand why sometimes the people we least expect hold the most power, and why my father's 4 simple words turned a humiliating rejection into the most shocking revelation of my life. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything fell apart. I was rushing through the rain, soaked to the bone, wearing my old work clothes, paint-stained jeans, a torn flannel shirt, and boots that had seen better days. I had been helping renovate a friend's house all morning, completely unaware that in just hours, these very clothes would become the center of a controversy that would shake an entire hospital to its core. The emergency room doors slid open with that familiar whoosh, and I stumbled inside, clutching my chest. The pain had started as a dull ache during lunch, but now it felt like someone was squeezing my heart with an iron fist. Sweat beaded on my forehead despite the hospital's air conditioning. I knew something was seriously wrong, but I had no idea that my appearance would become more of an obstacle than my actual medical condition. Behind the reception desk sat a woman in her 50s, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, designer glasses perched on her nose. She looked up from her computer screen, and I watched her expression change instantly. Her eyes swept over my disheveled appearance, lingering on the paint stains and mud on my boots. What happened next would haunt me for weeks, but it would also set in motion events that nobody in that hospital could have predicted. "Excuse me," I said, struggling to catch my breath, "I need to see a doctor immediately. I'm having chest pains." The receptionist's lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't even look at me as she replied, "This is a private hospital. We don't provide charity care. You'll need to go to the public hospital downtown." Her voice was cold, dismissive, as if I were nothing more than an inconvenience interrupting her day. I felt my face flush with embarrassment and anger. "I have insurance," I protested, pulling out my wallet with trembling hands. "I can pay. Please, I just need someone to look at me." But she had already turned back to her computer, effectively dismissing me. Around the waiting room, other patients stared. Some looked sympathetic, others seemed to agree with the receptionist's assessment. I stood there, humiliated, my chest still aching, wondering if this was really happening. That's when Dr. Harrison emerged from the back, a man I'd later learn was the head of cardiology. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with silver hair and the kind of confidence that comes from years of being respected and obeyed. He took one look at me and his expression hardened. "Is there a problem here?" he asked the receptionist, his tone making it clear he considered me the problem. The receptionist explained the situation, and Dr. Harrison nodded approvingly. "Sir," Dr. Harrison said, addressing me with barely concealed disdain, "this facility maintains certain standards. We serve a specific clientele, and frankly, you don't appear to meet our criteria. I suggest you seek treatment elsewhere." His words hit me like a physical blow. Here I was, potentially having a heart attack, and I was being turned away because of my clothes. The irony wasn't lost on me, but at that moment, I was too shocked to appreciate it. I tried one more time, my voice breaking slightly. "Please, I'm not asking for charity. I just need medical attention. Isn't there some kind of oath you took to help people?" Dr. Harrison's laugh was bitter. "The Hippocratic Oath doesn't require us to treat every vagrant who walks through our doors. Security will escort you out if necessary." The threat hung in the air like a toxic cloud, and I felt smaller than I had since childhood. That's when my phone rang. My father's ringtone, a classical piece he'd programmed himself. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. "Dad," I whispered, "I'm at the hospital. They won't treat me because of how I look." There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then my father's voice, calm but with an edge I'd rarely heard before, "Which hospital?" When I told him, he simply said, "Don't move. I'll be right there." The next few minutes felt like hours. My chest pain was getting worse, but I was more focused on the humiliation burning in my cheeks. Other patients whispered among themselves, pointing at me occasionally. The security guard kept glancing in my direction, clearly waiting for orders to remove me. I sat in one of the waiting room chairs, trying to make myself as small as possible, wondering what my father could possibly do to change the situation. Then the hospital's front doors burst open, and my father strode in. He was wearing a simple dark suit, nothing fancy, but there was something about his presence that immediately commanded attention. He walked straight to the reception desk, his eyes scanning the room until they found me. The receptionist looked up, probably ready to dismiss another undesirable, but something in my father's demeanor made her pause. The entire waiting room seemed to hold its breath. My father didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He simply walked up to Dr. Harrison, who had been watching the scene unfold with obvious annoyance, and said 4 words that changed everything: "I own this hospital." The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Harrison's face went from confident to confused to horrified in the span of seconds. The receptionist's hand flew to her mouth. Other staff members who had gathered to watch the drama began whispering frantically among themselves. You see, what none of them knew was that my father, Dr. Robert Chen, wasn't just any businessman. He was the founder and primary shareholder of the Chen Medical Group, which owned 17 hospitals across the state, including the one we were standing in. He had built his empire from nothing, always teaching me the importance of humility and treating everyone with respect. Today, his own staff had failed that fundamental test, and he was not pleased. The transformation in the room was instantaneous and complete. Dr. Harrison began stammering apologies, his face pale as he realized his career might be over. The receptionist stood up so quickly she knocked over her coffee. Nurses appeared from nowhere, suddenly very concerned about my chest pain. But my father held up a hand, stopping the sudden flurry of activity. First, he said quietly, "Take care of my son. Then we'll discuss what happened here today." And that's when the real story began. Within minutes, I was whisked into the best room in the hospital. A team of cardiologists examined me thoroughly. It turned out to be severe acid reflux, not a heart attack, but they treated me like I was their most important patient. As I lay on the hospital bed, for in my arm, I couldn't help but think about what would have happened if my father hadn't been who he was. How many other people had been turned away from this place because they didn't look the part? The aftermath was swift and decisive. Dr. Harrison was terminated that same day, along with the receptionist. My father implemented new policies requiring all patients to be treated regardless of appearance or perceived financial status. He also established a fund to ensure that anyone truly unable to pay would still receive care. The story spread quickly through social media, sparking conversations about healthcare inequality and the danger of judging people by their appearance. But here's what affected me most. In the weeks that followed, I received dozens of messages from people sharing similar experiences. A construction worker denied treatment after an accident because he looked dirty. A homeless veteran turned away from multiple hospitals. A young mother in thrift store clothes made to wait hours while better-dressed patients were seen immediately. My humiliating experience had opened a window into a problem much bigger than one hospital's prejudice. Today, whenever I drive past that hospital, I see the changes my father implemented. There's a new mission statement in the lobby emphasizing equal treatment for all. The staff undergoes regular training on unconscious bias. Most importantly, every patient who walks through those doors is now treated with the dignity they deserve, regardless of what they're wearing or how much money they appear to have. Looking back, I realized that the most painful day of my adult life also became one of the most meaningful. It taught me that privilege isn't just about having power, it's about using that power responsibly. It showed me that sometimes we need to experience injustice ourselves to truly understand what others go through daily. And it proved that 4 simple words, "I own this hospital," can change not just a moment, but an entire system. The doctor who refused to treat me because of my clothes learned that day that appearances can be deceiving. But more importantly, an entire hospital learned that every person deserves basic human dignity, regardless of what they wear or where they come from. Sometimes it takes a shock to the system to create real change. Sometimes the person you're judging might just surprise you. And sometimes, the most powerful lesson comes from the moment when everything you thought you knew gets turned completely upside down. This story isn't just about one bad day at a hospital, it's a mirror reflecting something that happens every single day in our society. How many times have you walked into a store and been followed by security because of how you were dressed? How often have you seen someone dismiss a homeless person's humanity simply because of their appearance? We live in a world where split-second judgments based on clothing, accent, or skin color determine how we're treated. The cashier who ignores the elderly customer paying with coins. The restaurant server who assumes the young couple can't afford the wine list. The teacher who expects less from the student in thrift store clothes. These moments of prejudice create invisible barriers that divide us, often without us even realizing we're building them. My experience taught me that every interaction is an opportunity to either perpetuate these harmful assumptions or break them down entirely. The truth is, we all carry unconscious biases, it's part of being human. But recognizing this isn't an excuse, it's a call to action. When I think about that receptionist and Dr. Harrison, I don't just see villains in my story. I see people who had probably made similar judgments hundreds of times before without consequence. They represent all of us when we allow our preconceptions to override our compassion. Consider the janitor you pass in the hallway without acknowledgement. What if they're working 3 jobs to support their family through college? What about the teenager with tattoos and piercings whom you assume is trouble? Maybe they're volunteering at an animal shelter every weekend. The immigrant with broken English who you think doesn't understand, perhaps they speak 4 languages and left a successful career to give their children better opportunities. Every person carries stories, dreams, struggles, and triumphs that our quick glances can never reveal. What strikes me most profoundly is how power dynamics play out in these situations. My father's revelation didn't just change how I was treated, it exposed the fragility of respect based on status rather than humanity. Think about your workplace. Does the CEO get interrupted in meetings while junior employees' ideas are dismissed? In schools, are parent complaints taken more seriously when they come from certain neighborhoods? At restaurants, do servers provide better service to customers they perceive as wealthy? This hierarchy of human worth is toxic and pervasive. But here's what gives me hope: every single one of us has the power to disrupt these patterns. When you choose to listen to the quiet voice in the room, when you treat the delivery driver with the same courtesy as your boss, when you defend someone being judged unfairly, you're using your power to create equity. You don't need to own a hospital to make a difference, you just need to recognize that every human interaction is a chance to either uplift or diminish someone's dignity. The most transformative lesson from my experience wasn't about the dramatic revelation, it was about the ripple effects of choosing empathy over assumption. After the hospital incident, I started paying attention to my own biases. I noticed when I made snap judgments about people based on their appearance. I caught myself assuming things about others' capabilities, intelligence, or character based on superficial observations. This awareness became uncomfortable but necessary. I began challenging these thoughts, asking myself, what story am I telling myself about this person, and is it fair? I started conversations with people I might have previously overlooked: the quiet colleague, the street musician, the immigrant store owner with the heavy accent. Each interaction revealed the richness and complexity that exists within every individual. I learned that the single mother working at the grocery store was also studying nursing at night. The man panhandling downtown was a veteran struggling with PTSD who still helped other homeless individuals find resources. These discoveries didn't just change how I saw others, they fundamentally altered how I move through the world. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. If this story moved you, if it made you think about your own experiences with judgment and prejudice, then we've accomplished something meaningful together. Your time and attention mean everything to content creators like me, and I'm genuinely grateful that you chose to spend these minutes hearing my story. But more importantly, I hope you'll take this message beyond this video. I challenge you to catch yourself the next time you make a snap judgment about someone. Try starting a conversation with someone you might normally overlook. Use your influence, however small it might seem, to treat others with dignity regardless of their appearance or status. If this video resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button, not just for me, but because you believe in creating a more empathetic world. Share this story with friends and family who need to hear it. Let's start conversations about unconscious bias and the power we all have to change hearts and minds. Together, we can ensure that no one else has to experience what I went through that day. Remember, you never know when your kindness might be the thing that changes someone's entire day, or even their life. Let's make that change happen, one interaction at a time.